She thought death was the end of my story. She smiled when I was buried in a wedding dress I never wanted, wearing bruises she left me to suffer through. My sister thought she won, by stealing the man who once held my heart and forcing me into the arms of a monster. But fate had a different plan. As I came back, and this time, I could hear their thoughts. I died on a Monday. The sky was soft and gray, the kind that makes you think something is watching. My breath rattled against the cold tiled floor of the estate my sister gifted me when she forced me into marriage. Gifted like one might toss a bone to a dying dog. I remember the scent of lavender and blood. I remember Ethan's final blow. But more than anything, I remember Sophia's voice, high and triumphant. She was too weak for this world. She wasn't wrong. Back then I was Susan, the obedient daughter, the overlooked second sister, the pawn. The girl who baked cookies to feel useful, who smiled when her heart cracked just to keep the peace. The one who loved deeply, but was never truly loved in return. Sophia was everything I wasn't, bold, beautiful, and cruel. From childhood she thrived by dimming my light. Our parents? They only noticed her. I was the shadow she stepped on again and again. So when she seduced Thomas, my fiancé, the gentleman who once told me he'd build a garden just so I could sit in peace, I wasn't surprised. He told me he never loved me. And I believed her. Our parents praised the match. It's only right, Mother said. Sophia belongs to someone like Thomas. Not you. I didn't fight. I never did. They arranged for me to marry Ethan instead, Thomas's business partner. Tall, handsome, and vicious in the ways people applauded. You'll learn how to be strong, my father told me. He was right. Just not in the way he imagined. Because death didn't come with a white light. It came with a choice. And when I opened my eyes again, I was 18. At first I thought it was a dream. My hands were soft and unscarred, the calendar on the wall read 4 years ago. And outside cherry blossoms had just begun to bloom, the same day Thomas first asked me to walk with him. But the dream didn't end. I looked in the mirror and a younger version of myself stared back, wide-eyed and trembling. My heart beat faster and my body remembered everything the mind tried to forget. Every strike. Every betrayal. Every time I was called dramatic, sensitive, ungrateful. Except now. I could hear the whispers behind their smiles. It started faintly. As Sophia passed my door I heard her voice, clear as crystal, but her lips never moved. She still thinks he'll choose her. Pathetic. I froze. No one else heard it. But I did. I wasn't just reborn. I came back with a gift. I didn't scream or cry. I didn't confront her. That's the thing about pain. It teaches you patience. I'd learned my lesson in blood. And this time, I was going to play the game better than they ever could. I walked downstairs the next morning, my steps quiet. Mother sat at the breakfast table, criticizing the help as usual. Sophia twirled her spoon, smiling sweetly. There she is, my mother said without looking up. Have you finished your application for the music conservatory? Not that it matters. You'll probably drop out like everything else. She should, Sophia said, tone syrupy. We wouldn't want her wasting anyone's time. But in Sophia's mind I heard it again. Let her dream a little longer. It's more fun when I get to crush her. My hands trembled beneath the table. Not from fear. From the thrill of knowing. This time I would not fall into their traps. This time I would let them dig their graves with their own lies. The first step in any war is silence. People reveal the most when they think no one is listening. I began keeping a journal, not of what they said aloud but of what I heard behind their words. Sophia's envy that Thomas once looked at me first. Father's disappointment that I was too much like my dead grandmother. Kindness is weakness, he used to say. Mother's bitter regret that I wasn't as easy to manipulate. They didn't notice the change in me at first. I still smiled, still offered tea, still wore pastels and nodded when spoken to. But I stopped letting them twist me. And I watched. I watched as Sophia planned to seduce Thomas again, just like before. I watched as she slowly planted doubts about me in his mind. But now I knew every thought she had before she said a word. She wanted him. Not because she loved him. Sophia didn't love anyone but herself. But because she wanted what I had. What I loved. But I didn't love Thomas anymore. I didn't want him back. What I wanted was justice. And to get that I needed to let history repeat itself. Just long enough to twist the ending. A week later Thomas invited us both to his lake house just like before. My heart beat fast when I saw him, still warm-eyed, still soft-spoken. Still the man I once thought was my forever. But I no longer saw him through rose-tinted dreams. I saw the cracks now. The way he wavered, the way he listened too easily to Sophia, the way he never asked what I wanted. Sophia clung to his side like perfume. I stayed silent. He thought I was too naive to fight. That was her first mistake. That night as we stood under the stars, Thomas approached me. "You seem different, Susan." "I am," I said, watching the moonlight catch on the lake's surface. "Maybe I finally stopped dreaming." His gaze softened. I miss our walks." But in his thoughts I heard it. "I wonder if she'd take me back. If Sophia doesn't work out." And just like that, the last string of longing in me snapped. He was not worth what I had suffered. He never was. And Sophia? She didn't see the storm I was becoming. It happened like déjà vu. One afternoon I heard my parents' voices echoing through the hallway, just like before. "I think Ethan is a more suitable match," my mother said, her voice crisp. "He has more power. Thomas and Sophia are already aligned now. It's better for Susan to match with someone useful." I stood behind the door listening. Useful. Not happy. Not safe. Just useful. And in Sophia's thoughts I heard the venom. "He'll destroy her, she don't know what is coming for her." I smiled. But I did know. I remembered every bruise. Every silence. Every scream muffled behind thick walls. And yet, I didn't feel fear. I felt clarity. That night I stared at the mirror. My reflection looked younger, untouched. But inside I was older, so much older. In my first life the thought of marrying Ethan made me cry myself to sleep. Now I stared at my own eyes and whispered, "Let her think she's winning." Because the marriage wasn't a trap anymore. It was my leverage. Ethan Blackwood. The name alone used to stir dread in the halls of the elite. A self-made mogul with a temper that left broken glass in his wake. They whispered about his ruthlessness, the mansion with no visitors, the women who never lasted. The announcement came fast. A dinner was held, quiet and controlled. Just family. Ethan didn't protest. He rarely did what he didn't plan himself. But I saw the calculation in his eyes when I walked into the room. He expected another passive bride. He didn't know I'd died once before at his hands. And lived to remember it. "I trust you'll be punctual," Ethan said as we discussed the date. I met his gaze. "Always. I don't run from fate." He stared at me. For a beat too long. And in his thoughts I heard, "What game is she playing?" Good. The wedding was fast, cold and clinical. No flowers. No family speeches. No warmth. Just a contract. A pen. And me standing across from a man who once ended my life. But this time I wasn't a trembling girl. I looked him in the eye. "Sign my name." And when we walked out as husband and wife I whispered under my breath, "This time I'm the one holding the leash." The mansion was the same. Marble floors. Long corridors. A silence so loud it swallowed you whole. But I no longer feared it. Because I didn't come here to disappear. The first night in the mansion I heard Ethan's thoughts for the first time. "She's not trembling." Good. I hate weak things. Why does she smell like lavender and storms? This isn't the same girl they promised me. Struck me like a jolt. He didn't recognize my fear. Because I wasn't giving him any. And that, more than beauty, more than obedience, was what fascinated Ethan. He didn't speak much during dinner. Just watched. His fork moved with precision. Every gesture, every breath was control. But I caught it. A flicker in his mind. Who is she really? I wasn't just living in his home. I was studying him. Listening when he walked past, hearing the thoughts he never voiced. He was angry most of the time. But not at me. At them. They forced this match. Sophia's lies were thicker than poison. They think I'm too cruel to care. That last one caught me off guard. So Ethan didn't want this marriage either? He was just bound by it. Like me. The next morning I brewed his coffee the way he liked. 2 sugars, 1 cream. He narrowed his eyes when I said it before him. "Who told you how I take it?" I shrugged. "I pay attention." He said nothing. But in his mind. She notices things. I hate that. I like that. Damn it. A slow smirk tugged at my lips. I was getting under his skin. Perfect. Days passed. I did not flinch. Not when he raised his voice during a call. Not when he broke a vase in the study. Instead, I entered with a broom, swept the shards, and said, "You missed a corner." He stared at me like I'd spoken Greek. That night, I heard his thoughts again. She doesn't fear me. She's not stupid, is she dangerous? And slowly he began testing me, leaving sharp words, lingering glances, probing questions. And I answered each one with calm steel. One evening, during a thunderstorm, the power cut out. I was in the library, barefoot, a candle in hand. Ethan appeared behind me, his frame tall in the lightning flicker. "You're not afraid of storms?" he asked. I looked at him. "I've lived through worse." His jaw tensed. "Like what?" I turned to the window. "A wedding." Silence. Then, something shifted. Not in his voice. In his mind. "Who heard her before me? Why does that make me furious?" That was the night the monster looked human. He didn't touch me. He didn't threaten me. He walked away. Quiet. Conflicted. That was when I knew. He wasn't the villain Sophia made him out to be. He was the weapon she tried to aim at me. But she never learned the first rule of war. Never hand a loaded gun to the girl you buried. Days later, Ethan called for me in the rose garden. I'd avoided it before. Roses reminded me too much of funerals. But I followed. And found him kneeling beside a wilted bush. "She used to come here," he said suddenly. "Sophia." My hands froze. She wanted to impress me. Said she loved roses. But she never watered them. Just took pictures to post online. He looked up. "Do you love them?" I paused. "They're beautiful. But they bleed when you touch them wrong." He smiled for the first time. "A real one. Like you." I stared at him. "You think you know me?" "I want to." But his thoughts betrayed him. "I've never met anyone like her. If she wanted to ruin me, I'd let her. God help me, I want her to." Invitations were sent under Ethan's name, not mine. It was a Blackwood business gathering, an elegant dinner designed to flaunt power and renew connections. Sophia's name wasn't on the guest list. But she came anyway. Because of course she did. When I saw her name among the arrivals, I didn't flinch. I simply added another line to the chessboard inside my mind. "Your sister's coming?" Ethan asked, pouring himself a drink. "She doesn't miss opportunities," I replied lightly. His eyes lingered on my face. "Should I uninvite her?" I smiled. "No need. Let her walk in thinking she still owns the room." He watched me for a long moment. "You scare me sometimes." "Good," I said. "Fear keeps people honest." The Blackwood estate gleamed that evening, floor-to-ceiling crystal chandeliers, candlelight dancing across silverware, music drifting softly from a live quartet in the corner. Ethan looked like he was carved from power in his black suit, and I wore a deep emerald silk dress that left whispers in its wake. I could feel it, how people noticed me now. Not as the quiet, timid wife of a cold billionaire, but as someone who made even the monster seem tamed. We stood together as the guests arrived. I smiled, I listened, I nodded. And then, she arrived. Sophia waltzed in with a confidence she wore like perfume, loud, intoxicating, and overdone. She wore a champagne-colored gown that shimmered too aggressively as if it begged for attention. Her eyes found me instantly. She didn't blink. She wasn't used to seeing me this way, head high, no tremble in my voice, a hand gently resting on Ethan's arm. She walked over with a sweet smile that cracked beneath the surface like thin ice. "Susan," she breathed. "You look different." I tilted my head. "So do you?" "New fillers." The room went still for a second too long. Ethan's lips twitched into something dangerously close to amusement. Sophia's smile faltered. Her eyes flicked to Ethan, who hadn't moved away from me. He tried to cover. "You two seem cozy." I didn't think he liked company. "He doesn't," I replied. "But I'm not company. I'm home." She flinched. And in her thoughts I heard it. "She's not supposed to sound like this. What the hell happened to her?" Dinner was served in the East Wing, under a vaulted ceiling with candlelit chandeliers. Guests buzzed around us, but I kept my eyes on Sophia, watching her unravel in slow motion. She seated herself across from us, forced to watch me in the position she thought she'd claimed. Ethan, ever observant, leaned in. "Is she always this obvious?" "She's used to playing checkers," I said. "I play chess now." He gave a low laugh that made Sophia's jaw tighten. Every moment of silence between them grew heavier, more telling. "I heard Thomas recently ended his engagement," Ethan said suddenly, eyes on his wine. Shame, isn't it? I could feel the tension spike from across the table. Sophia's voice was honey-dipped. Oh. I hadn't heard. But her thoughts screamed. No, no, no. He wasn't supposed to say that here. In front of her. Why does he know? Did Susan tell him? Of course I had. I leaned back, sipping from my glass. You were close to him once, weren't you, Sophia? He stiffened. Well, we were all young. Things change. Yes, I agreed, letting the smile settle slowly on my lips. Some people grow. Others just age. Ethan placed his hand lightly on mine beneath the table as if to say, checkmate. After dinner, the guests wandered into the garden for dessert and drinks. The air was cool, crisp with jasmine, and the lanterns flickered like fireflies. Sophia cornered me near the fountain. What the hell are you doing? She hissed. I tilted my head, all innocence. Enjoying the evening. She stepped closer. You're playing a game you don't understand, Susan. But I do understand now, I murmured. That's the part you didn't expect. She narrowed her eyes. You think Ethan cares about you? He'll chew you up. I smiled, slow and dangerous. Then I'll bite back. He blinked, stunned. And then I leaned in, dropping my voice. You handed me to him thinking he'd destroy me. But look at me, Sophia. I'm not broken. I'm wearing diamonds, standing beside the most feared man in this city, and I'm not afraid of you anymore. Her lips parted, speechless. For the first time I saw it, fear. Real bone-deep fear. Because she knew. I wasn't the weak sister anymore. Ethan found me afterward, alone near the rose arches. He handed me a drink. She looked ready to murder someone, he said. I'd like her to try, I replied, taking the glass. He studied me. Why do you want her to hate you this much? I looked up at him. Because if she hates me, she's watching me. And if she's watching me, she won't see what I'm really doing. And what's that? He asked, voice low. I turned my gaze toward the stars. Rewriting the story. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, almost reverently, he said, You're not what I expected. I know, I said. In his mind, I heard the truth. I don't want to hurt her anymore. God help me, I want to protect her. Later that night in our bedroom, he stopped in the doorway. You're not afraid of me, are you? I met his gaze in the mirror. No. I was afraid of dying without ever being seen. He stepped closer. And now I'm the one watching. His hand brushed my shoulder, gentle, almost tentative. Sophia doesn't know what you've become. She will, I whispered. Soon. And in his mind I heard, whatever she needs, I'll give it to her. Even if it means going to war with her sister. The morning after the dinner, Sophia sent roses to the estate. 12 white ones, pure, sharp, and symbolic. No note. No name. Just a single line written in perfect cursive on a card. Even thorns look pretty in candlelight. I smiled as I tucked the card into the fire. Ethan had noticed the delivery, his eyes cold. Trying to rattle you? She thinks roses still scare me. He arched an eyebrow. Do they? Only when they come from her. He leaned in, brushing hair from my shoulder, his voice a whisper. Then I'll make sure she never sends them again. By then, word of the dinner had spread like wildfire. Sophia hated that I was suddenly visible. Admired. And perhaps worst of all, untouchable under Ethan's shadow. So she did what she always did when she felt threatened. She played dirty. I wasn't surprised when I received an urgent call from a charity board I'd just joined. Something about missing documents and unauthorized donations linked to my name. A clever scheme. A forged trail. Subtle enough to raise doubt. Loud enough to cause embarrassment. It had Sophia's fingerprints all over it. Ethan was in his office when I came in, the air still with tension. They're accusing me of embezzling, I said calmly. He didn't look up from his computer. Who's they? The Board of Elysian Hearts. His hand stilled on the mouse. Slowly he looked up. That's the same board your sister donated to last month. Exactly. He leaned back. Let me handle it. I hesitated. You don't need to. I'm not doing it because I need to, he said, his voice steady. I'm doing it because I want to. And in his thoughts I heard. She's not going down for this. Not while I can still burn it all to the ground. 2 days later, Ethan walked into the board meeting uninvited. He wore midnight black, confidence stitched into every inch. The board members straightened in their seats. Whispers rose. "Mr. Blackwood?" the chairman sputtered. "This is..." Ethan raised a single hand. "Your allegations against my wife are not only false, they're sloppy. I ran an internal audit. Traced every cent. The transaction you flagged as unauthorized." He turned his laptop around. It was processed using Sophia Whitmore's IP address. From her private office. Gasps. One woman's hand flew to her mouth. Another stared at the screen as if it had slapped her. "Now," Ethan continued smoothly, "if anyone here would like to retract their accusations, I'm sure my lawyers will appreciate your promptness." Silence. Then the chairman cleared his throat. "Of course. Our deepest apologies, Mrs. Blackwood. There must have been a mistake." "No mistake," I said, standing beside Ethan. "Just a familiar pattern." As we walked out, Ethan's fingers brushed mine, barely noticeable but electric. "You didn't have to come," I murmured. "I know," he said. "But I couldn't stay away. Sophia called me that night. I didn't answer. She texted instead. You think he'll protect you forever? Wait till you disappoint him. He'll crush you like the rest." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied, "You already tried that. And I'm still standing." Her response was instant. "You're not standing. You're just in his shadow." I didn't reply, because I knew something she didn't. Ethan wasn't casting a shadow. He was clearing the path. Later that week, Ethan joined me in the garden. He rarely left the office during the day, but today he looked different. Lighter, as if something had lifted. "I bought something," he said casually. I looked up from pruning. "Another company?" He chuckled. "No. A painting." "A painting." He pulled out his phone, turned the screen toward me. It was a delicate piece. Stormy skies, soft light, a woman walking alone on a cliffside, her hair blowing behind her like fire. "It reminded me of you," he said simply. I didn't speak. But in his thoughts I heard. Alone. Beautiful. Dangerous. Strong. That's her. That's Susan. I wanted to say something. I wanted to ask what we were becoming. But the words stayed behind my lips, caught between old wounds and new fire. Ethan didn't press. He just sat beside me, our silence soft with unspoken things. And in that moment I realized something that scared me more than my sister, more than my past. I was starting to trust him. Not because he'd earned it, but because for the first time in my life someone was choosing me without asking me to shrink. Sophia, of course, couldn't let that stand. So she went further. She leaked photos to the press. Old, edited shots from a drunken college party, twisted to make it seem like I'd once stolen from a friend. She even fed anonymous quotes to gossip columns, calling me a gold digger who trapped Ethan into marriage. The headlines were brutal. The comments worse. But when the articles came out, Ethan did something she didn't expect. He posted a photo of us, just me laughing in the kitchen, no makeup, flour on my cheek. And the caption? "Let them talk. I know the truth." The internet exploded. Not with hate but with praise. Admiration. Suddenly I wasn't a scandal. I was a mystery. And Ethan Blackwood? He just made it clear I was untouchable. Sophia showed up at our gate 3 days later. I met her at the front door, calm and composed. "You used to be nothing," she spat. "And yet," I said softly, "you can't seem to stay away from me. You think you've won?" I tilted my head. "You haven't even seen what winning looks like." She scoffed. "He'll get tired of you." "Maybe. But even if he does, I'll still be standing. And you'll still be hiding behind lies." She tried to slap me. The hand never landed. Ethan caught her wrist midair. His voice was ice. "Touch her again and I'll ruin you so thoroughly, not even your family will remember your name." Sophia yanked her hand back, shaking. "You don't scare me. You should be terrified," he said. "Because I used to ignore you. Now I see you clearly." She fled. And for the first time in my life I felt safe. Not because a man protected me, but because I had chosen the right time to let someone in. The final step wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. To take back what she thought I'd never want again. Not just my reputation or dignity, but my future. My own name. And it started with the Whitmore Foundation Gala. Every year, Sophia made sure she was the star, co-chairing the event, giving fake smile speeches, using it to cement her place among the city's elite. She'd always said, "This night proves who really matters." So I decided to make it about me. Ethan stood beside me as I adjusted the clasp of my gown. It was simple, black velvet, sleeveless, elegant. I didn't need sequins or dramatic trains. My presence would be enough. "You don't need to go," he said, brows slightly drawn. "She'll try something." "She already did," I replied. "And she lost. Tonight is for the world to see it." He studied me in the mirror. "You don't look angry." "I'm not." "Then what are you?" I turned to face him, calm. "Ready." And in his thoughts, I heard the quiet awe he didn't voice. "She doesn't burn like fire. She freezes like winter. And it's beautiful." The gala was held at the Ophelia Grand Hotel, a place built on glass walls and golden staircases. Flashbulbs burst the moment we arrived. All eyes turned. And for once I didn't flinch. I felt them watching. But more than that, I felt her watching. Sophia's smile nearly cracked when we entered. She wore crimson, bold, attention-seeking like a flare in the night. Her eyes swept over me like daggers looking for a wound. But I gave her nothing. She walked toward us, forced to pretend civility. "Susan," she cooed. "That's a brave choice of dress." "Thank you," I said. I wasn't sure if I wanted to match the carpet or the guests, but then I realized, black suits shadows best. Her smile tightened. "Ethan," she turned to him. "You've been quiet lately. We used to talk more." "Then I grew up," he replied dryly. I nearly laughed. In her mind I heard the furious echo. She turned him against me. "She's making me invisible. She thinks this is her stage now." And she was right. An hour into the evening, the event chair announced a surprise guest speaker. Me. Sophia's eyes widened in shock as I stepped onto the small stage, the lights casting a golden glow across my skin. "Good evening," I began, voice calm and steady. "Some of you know me as Ethan Blackwood's wife. But before that, I was the daughter no one remembered. The sister pushed aside. The woman called a decoration, not a person." Gasps rippled. Cameras turned. I was told I had no value unless it came from someone else's approval. But I stand here now not as a plus one. Not as a background name. But as the new chair of the Whitmore Women's Fund, effective tonight. Sophia bolted upright. That position had been hers. Her hand clenched around her champagne flute, cracking the rim. I smiled. "Tonight we begin a new direction. One based not on image but action. And as someone who was once buried beneath someone else's ambition, I promise to never let another woman feel voiceless again." Thunderous applause. Sophia didn't clap. She just stared, frozen. Because I'd taken her throne. Without even raising my voice. After the speech, I stepped off stage into the sea of congratulations. Cameras snapped. Women approached me with warmth in their eyes. I had become what she pretended to be. And the irony? She handed me the spotlight by underestimating me. I made my way to the rooftop garden to breathe. And there I found Ethan waiting. "You didn't just steal the show," he said. "You became it." I leaned against the railing. "She'll come after me harder now. And I'll stand in her way," he said simply. I looked up at him. "Why?" His gaze held mine. "Because I was supposed to be your end. And somehow you became my beginning." That night the final blow fell. And it didn't come from me. It came from her own hand. Ethan released a press statement the next morning, disclosing anonymous whistleblower reports, backed by undeniable evidence, that Sophia had embezzled donations from 3 nonprofits over the past year, one of which bore her name. She'd used the money to pay for vacations, jewelry, and bribes. The media exploded. Sponsors fled. Her PR team quit. Her empire unraveled faster than silk in fire. He tried to blame me. But no one listened anymore. Because I wasn't the shadow now. I was the sun she couldn't outshine. She came to the estate 3 days later. One last desperate attempt. Ethan didn't let her pass the front gate. But I met her there anyway. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her makeup uneven. Her voice cracked. "You think you've won?" she said bitterly. "I didn't think," I replied. "I knew. I made you," she snapped. "Everything you are, you became because of me." And for a moment I saw the truth buried in her rage. She needed me broken. Because my survival proved she never had power. Only permission. "No," I said gently. "You didn't make me. You tried to unmake me. The strength that came from surviving you. Her mouth opened, closed. There was nothing left to say. I turned and walked away, leaving her behind the iron gates that once protected her. Now they were prison bars. Spring arrived with a softness I hadn't felt in years. The Blackwood estate, once a cold marble prison, now bloomed with lavender and climbing roses. The air smelled like renewal, not regret. Ethan stood at the edge of the balcony one morning, sipping his coffee, his eyes on the sunrise. I joined him quietly. "No meetings today?" I asked, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. He smiled just faintly. "I cancelled them." "Oh, that's unlike you." He looked at me then. And I saw something in his expression I hadn't dared to name. Warmth, gentleness, and something else, almost like fear. "I have something I want to say," he said, his voice low. And I didn't want any distractions. I turned to face him fully, heart tightening. I was raised to believe power was everything. That feelings were a weakness. That love was a transaction, he said. But then you came into my life, not as the woman I wanted, but the one I needed. And you broke every rule I had. He set his cup down, reached for my hand. "I don't want to be a shield anymore. I want to be yours. If you'll have me." My breath caught. Because I'd once died at his hands. And now he was offering me his heart. I searched his thoughts, not just his words. I would never hurt her again. She is the first person I've ever wanted to protect, not control. Even if she walks away, I want her to know she's free. Tears welled in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. "I don't want a protector," I whispered. "I want a partner." He nodded. "Then I'll learn to be that. For you." We didn't marry again in grand halls or under flashing lights. There was no press release. No white dress. No audience. Just us. In the garden, under a canopy of stars, we exchanged vows. Not promises of perfection, but of honesty. Of effort. Of a future shaped by choice, not obligation. I didn't wear diamonds. Just a small silver band. And his hand in mine. Ethan wasn't gentle by nature. But he was gentle with me. And that made all the difference. Sophia, after her fall from grace, she fled the city. Rumors said she was living abroad, trying to reinvent herself again. But I didn't follow her story. Not because I forgave her. But because I didn't need to hold on anymore. Some battles end not with a final blow, but with walking away. I focused on rebuilding what she tried to steal. Myself. I founded my own nonprofit, the Rebirth Initiative, offering safe spaces and legal aid to women trapped in toxic marriages and family structures. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had once been exactly that woman. But now I had become the one reaching back with a hand. Ethan supported me quietly. He never tried to take credit. Never sought to steer my vision. Instead, he built us a home where silence didn't mean suffering. Where presence didn't come with pressure. At night we would talk for hours. About things we once buried deep. I told him about the first time Sophia locked me in a closet during a storm just to hear me scream. He told me about the first time his father slapped him for crying. We both came from poison. But we were planting something else now. One evening, months later, as I sat on the garden bench reviewing grant applications, Ethan knelt beside me, slipping a small box into my lap. "What's this?" I asked. "Not a ring," he smirked. "You already have one of those." Inside was a necklace. Simple, elegant, and engraved on the back. My equal. My piece. I stared at it for a long moment. "You once said I was your end," I murmured. "And you became my beginning," he said softly. "I was reborn once in pain. But I stayed alive through purpose. I didn't rebuild my life to prove a point to my sister. I rebuilt it because I deserved to live a life where love didn't mean sacrifice, and power didn't come from cruelty." Sophia thought she pushed me into darkness. But what she really did was awaken the light I never knew I had. And in the end, I didn't just survive the monster. I married the man who learned how to become human. Because of the woman who refused to stay broken. I was reborn. And this time, I chose love for myself. Think.